All right. If we went year by year, I talked about the offense or the wide receiver core not being a concern. I think the offensive line usually is the number one concern year after year after year after year. Well, let's, it's a national championship and other players, of course, get accolades and credit, but man, the offensive line was stellar throughout that run through the playoffs. Donovan Jackson made himself a boatload of money. There's no question about that. And Carson Hinsman coming back at center, and just there's quite a bit of experience coming back for this offensive line.
Agreed. I think you are in a better place than you were a year ago at this time when you're talking offensive linemen. There are some questions. You lost both starting tackles. So how do you replace them? Well, Ohio State's gone the transfer portal, got Ethan Onianwa from Rice, who will probably start at left tackle. Right, he was working with the twos on the first day of spring practice, but I imagine that will be your guy at left tackle. Philip Daniels from Minnesota, an interesting guy because he did start the last few games of the season at Minnesota, largely due to injuries. I've talked to a few people around that program, and there was some surprise that Ohio State was so interested in Philip Daniels. He is an Ohio kid from Cincinnati, not a guy Ohio State initially offered, but Minnesota thought he was certainly a guy who was going to start for them going forward, but probably a guy who still needed some development. And then he enters the transfer portal. Ohio State's heavy after him. Some may argue that he entered the transfer portal knowing that Ohio State would be after him. That seems to be the prevailing thought from those around the Minnesota program, that maybe there was some tampering there. I think that happens with a lot of guys, by the way. But so I'll be interested to see as we get to watch more, as we hear more about Philip Daniels, is he ready to be a starter at Ohio State at right tackle? Or, do you need to go to someone else who's been in the program and maybe seen some of that development a little bit more? And is there somebody who's ready? You could look at an Ian Moore, for instance, redshirt freshman, one of the Armstrong twins that are going to be in their second seasons. Carter Lowe is a true freshman. I think because there isn't an obvious answer, Philip Daniels is probably the guy, though we did see Austin Sareveld, who played guard all this past season, take the first team reps at right tackle at the first day of spring practice. But again, it is the first day. So certainly some questions at the tackle position. And then in the interior, Ohio State did that 3-man rotation with Luke Montgomery, Austin Sareveld, and Tegra Shabola at guard in the playoff. Is that something they continue? Does Austin Sareveld move to tackle full time? And then even Carson Hinsman, I think his best football was when he stepped in for Donovan Jackson, when Donovan Jackson moved to left tackle and he was playing left guard. Now, when he moved to center after Seth McLaughlin got hurt, it was good. There were still some snapping issues and some things at times. They have Josh Padilla, who is a young player that they really like, going to be entering his third year, same class as Luke Montgomery and Austin Sareveld, who was recruited to be a center. So is he ready to be the center? Do you stick with Carson Hinsman, who just helped you win a national championship? Is Carson Hinsman better as a guard? So yeah, while I think you feel a lot better about this offensive line group because of the experience you mentioned, some of the talent even, and we should mention Tyler Bowen, new offensive line coach after Justin Fry left. He'll have a new set of eyes, new thoughts about all this. So there are certainly some questions, but I do think talent-wise, experience-wise, you are in a better place than a year ago if you're Ohio State.